Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you so much, Maharaj, and thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu, for our kirtan tonight, and welcome to everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is Friday, June 16th, 2023, and we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 6th chapter, tonight starting with text number 23. Some very colorful verses here, and thank you very much for joining us, Maharaj, and so happy to see you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Akendra Prabhu, and thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. And thank you to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And thanks to those who are here also, Rabindra Prabhu and many. And yes, 2023. Devo Devan Jagannatha Srijati Smati Lolupan Tainam Lolupataya Maitunaya Vipedire. Lord Brahma then gave birth to the demons from his buttocks, and they were very fond of sex. Because they were too lustful, they approached him for copulation. Purport: sex life is the background of material existence. Here also, it is repeated that demons are very fond of sex life. The more one is free from the desires for sex, the more he is promoted to the level of the demigods. The more is promoted to the level of the demigods, semicolon. The more one is inclined to enjoy sex, the more he's degraded to the level of demoniac life. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadha Mahyam Tadhati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here, the background or the basic principle of material existence is sex. This immediately puts us in contradistinction to the modern worldview, which has it that love, as it's called, is what lends meaning to life, that love is all you need, that love is what bad could be said about love. In George Orwell's dystopian novel, 1984, the big brother is keeping everyone under essentially mind control, and the hero is able to discover freedom in a sexual relationship. You get basically two revolutionaries who realize that that Big Brother has been suppressing sex so that he can rule everyone. But if we, I'm oversimplifying, but that the sexual relationship is essentially liberating. That's a sub-theme, really, in this book. I don't want to overstate it, but it's there. And we have I saw similarly, I was in Greece one time in Athens, and there was this poster of, like, I couldn't read the Greek, but there was a revolutionary with a bandolier and everything, the whole the gorilla outfit, and the gorillini, a female gorilla. Well, let's not confuse things. A female revolutionary also to accompany him, and you could see that this was going to be the life of the revolution. Men and women sexually attracted to one another. What could be more romantic than sex and revolution? The hippie culture had the same idea. We were absolutely opposed to material values that surrounded us, with greedy corporations and meaningless wars and so on. And how do you express your opposition, and how do you get free from all these things? Well, it's by sex, by drugs, by protest, or all three together. So the idea is there that somehow these things are transcendent even. And here, just the opposite. The more we become involved in sex, the more we become attached to sex, or the more we're desirous of sex, the more we're anchored to material existence, the more we're entangled, and the more we become degraded down to the level of demoniac life. And on the contrary, we find that great sages free themselves from sex entirely, or their sex life is seriously controlled. They control their sex life. that's of the divine nature. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi. When sex is not contrary to religious principles, then it represents Krishna. But sex contrary to religious principles represents degradation. So here, Brahma had created, first of all, crazy demons who wanted to eat him. Then he created the chief demigods. And now again, he's creating more demons. So these things, it's explained elsewhere, I think, that these lower creations come because his consciousness is not yet entirely pure. There's some impurities there, which he drops off in the form of by shedding bodies, as it were. So these demons are included in that group. They were just full of desire, full of desire. They're, what is that? Ahashapasha Shatara Bhatta Kama Krodha Parayana Ihante Kamapo Vartam Essentially. The demons are described in the Bhagavad Gita that they're Kama Krodha Parayana. Parayana means after, the sense of aspiring for, addicted to Krishna Parayana. Those who are addicted to Krishna, who are mad after Krishna, attached to Krishna. But the demons are Kama Krodha Parayana. They're after or full of lust and anger. And therefore they're busy accumulating money by hook or by crook to satisfy their material desires. Behold, degraded modern civilizations, Prabhupada said, a manifestation of sex life. The more the passion grows, the more we want skyscrapers and nightclubs and casinos and every kind of, and wars and so on. So here, sex life is the background of material existence, the anchor of material existence. And the demons particularly, this is a kama upaboga parama etavadati nishchita. Again, in the 16th chapter. Nishchita means ascertained. What have they ascertained? They've ascertained what the ultimate achievement in life is. Parama means the highest thing. What is the highest thing? Kama upaboga. Sex, sense gratification. Kama upaboga parama. Etavadati nishchita. Nothing is equal to or greater than kama upaboga. This is their idea. So they, yes, this is the demonic tendency and the demonic civilization. All right. Any questions, comments?
Yeah.
Yes.
In the purport to 23, Prabhupada says, the more one is free from the desires for sex, the more he is promoted to the level of the demigods.
Mm.
But the demigods have these apsaras, and that seems to be, Prabhupada calls them heavenly society girls. Society girls basically means like a sort of a high-class prostitute or something. So you have to, what's the difference between that and
what's described here?
Yeah.
Was the question clear? I don't know how Zoom does. It's described here, the more one becomes free from sex desire, the more he's promoted to the level of the demigods. And yet we hear that the demigods are very interested in sex. They're described as having apsaras as their associates, essentially society girls, or Rabindra's group says kind of high-class prostitute.
yeah.
Courtesans, I think one would say. So how do we reconcile that? How do we square this? Well, good question. Any thoughts about it?
No, I'm waiting.
You're waiting for me. It is an interesting question. And do I have any answers for you? Let's see. One thing is, of course, that because they do have these desires, they're still in the material world.
That's one point. Yeah.
They're not transcendental desires, and therefore they're stuck in the heavenly planets, where they have scope for these things. The other point is, and their sex is, what would you say, permitted.
Yeah.
Here they want to do anything. I remember when I was really young, I was a teenager, we had these family get-togethers, and there was one cousin wound up in a witness protection program someplace. I don't know the details. I don't think anyone knows the details, but I remember him sort of giving me, sort of sage advice. He must have been in his 20s. Sage advice that, if you want to enjoy with a woman, you have to be ready to do anything. You have to be ready to do anything. And of course, this was the goal of life. Kamo paboga parama. There's nothing to aspire for beyond this. So you get this is demonic, that life is only meant for sex, for sense gratification. This is what we want, and this is what we're going to do. And your rules be damned. And it's just, we're just full of uncontrollable lust. Whereas the demigods follow some kind of regulative principles. They must have followed regulative principles on the earth
to be demigods.
To be demigods, and now they're awarded a higher station, where it seems that there's an extended legality. The laws provide for more scope, so that they have their apsaras and so on. And when you look at their goal of life is not just to enjoy sex. They have facility for that, but they render service. Finally, their qualification is Vishnu Bhakta. Vishnu Bhakta Bhave Daiva. They're engaged in service to the Lord. And they're given some facility for sexual enjoyment. A lot of sexual enjoyment from what we hear. But it's sort of accommodated. Even in the military, the generals and so on, they're given some scope for what for the enlisted men might be off limits, or sort of, what would we say, irregular. Not off limits exactly, but it would be catch as catch can. Whereas for the generals, it's more institutionalized. They have some arrangement because it's understood that they're in the mode of passion. They have these desires, but still they serve the country. They're not out there on the front lines for sex. They're there to fight and so on. And then they're given this what would you say, facility, or they're given some perks, you could say, or they're accommodated. Okay, you're a big man, so tell us what you need. Well, I need so much of this, and so much of this. Okay, you have it. But they're there to serve. Kendra Prabhu, you'd like to shed some light on this?
Oh, I don't know about shedding light on that particular discussion, but this purport did remind me of the section in eighth canto where the demigods and the demons declare a truce. Mohini Murti comes in, she's distributing the nectar, and this very point that the demigods have their nature and the demons have theirs is really exploited by this whole presence of Mohini Murti, because she knows that the driving desire of the demons is to, be pleasing to the ladies. So yes, whatever you say, we'll accept. So that was like a very strong bargaining chip on the side of the demigods, because they could keep a cool head in the situation, whereas the demons certainly could not. And it just, the whole distinction that's made in the purport here is that you see the demigods are one way and they go a certain direction. And if you're inclined more towards sex, you go a different direction. It's such a heavy indictment of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll culture.
Absolutely. Which is now normative. And back in maybe the 60s, it was an expression of revolt against the mainstream culture. We're into sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You take that in your face. Now in your face, well, so are we. The mainstream is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So this is Kali Yuga advancing upon us. Thank you, Kendra Prabhu. Tulsi Priya.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. I was just thinking that this sort of answered a question that has long perplexed men and women, and that's why women are attracted to bad boys. There could be a nice man who's, a decent person, but women will often go for the bad boy who's, on the borderline of being criminal. And I was thinking that, well, maybe that's perhaps because he doesn't care so much. And so he has a certain kind of power. And if you don't care that much what the woman thinks, then women are interested in your power because you don't care. Whereas someone who's good and is, has other interests in life, they're just normal people, and so they're not so attractive. Anyways, it's not a fully fleshed out idea, but there is that phenomenon of women being attracted to bad men. So I'm thinking maybe it's because they have a certain level of power because they're not so attached to what women.
You froze based on my machine. You're not being allowed to complete this thought. And I don't know if I'm frozen also here.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I'm fine. Okay. It's only your wife who's frozen in perpetual. Well, anyway, she's frozen. I think it's beyond me to get into an in-depth analysis of why some women are attracted to men who have what they sometimes call criminal chic. I don't.
Hey, look at that.
Well, if I didn't have anything to say about it, they were going to stop the recording.
There you go.
I think that's beyond me to analyze. One thing is that, again, this is more cultivated in Kali Yuga. It's not that this is what women are all interested in, some scruffy, low life, because this is what turns them on. And some men may be attracted to scruffy, low life women too. But these things would be, of course, dictated by the modes of material nature. If you're more on the ignorant side, then you'll be attracted to.
Well, I mean, there's a song. I like my women a little on the tacky side. Country western song.
I see. Yeah, there's those who are in in the lower modes of nature, they want women who are, more like animals. And if they're more degraded, more degraded. And men who are of a higher nature want women who are of a higher nature. They want women who are sophisticated or cultured or refined or
went to Sarah Lawrence.
Went to Sarah Lawrence, went to a good school, and they're respectable and well, in Vedic culture, certainly chaste. But now it's like the opposite, and therefore, and then they wonder why the marriages break up. The men are attracted to women who are without culture or standards. The women are attracted to somebody who's just like a bull, but has no culture, and then they wonder why are our marriages failing. But this is when it's just on the basis of sex attraction, then this is what you're going to get. So in summary, I don't think it's a universal principle that women want bad guys. And these things are also exploited by the media. They're cultivated. There's like the Rolling Stones, speaking of drug sex, their bad boy image was very much cultivated by their managers. It's not that, after all, Mick Jagger, I think, went to LSE, quite a good school in London. So he must have had some qualifications and so on. But this image was deliberately cultivated with the idea that this is something we can sell. And the media does that in not only with rock groups, but with whatever they're selling. If they think that criminal chic will sell their product, then they'll push criminal chic. Whatever will sell, liquor or cigarettes or vacuum cleaners or anything. This is a highly sophisticated industry. I don't know why women might be attracted to low-grade men, but the high-paid psychologists who are working in central Manhattan do know. They've studied these things. They compare notes on these things. They roll out campaigns and analyze the results. So they're very well informed about these things. I'm not. Okay, something else. Yes.
I think Maharaj in sections, one particular verse talking about sex life, and today seems that sexual culture is more available in the sense that I know, people have, issues with pornography and now their phones and their laptops, and it's all readily available. So I guess and one of those how-to questions, how to give people how do we help them?
How do we help people who are really slaves to the modern sex culture, and especially on the digital platform with phones and computers and so on? Well, that's a practical question in one sense. There are different things that can be done. One thing, of course, is to get rid of all your devices, but that's difficult. Another very practical thing is what they call parental controls. I advise that this does affect people, including people who are aspiring to advance in Krishna consciousness, they get trapped by these devices. So parental controls can be helpful. You institute parental controls and throw away the key, and then your device is less available for these things. Thinking if there's anything else on the digital platform. Parental controls, and also for temple-sponsored internet, global controls, administrator controls that filter these sites out and identify people who are using any temple really that's sponsoring the use of the internet for its members. Really should have administrator level control, and then disclosure to the users that you're using our internet. It's for devotional service only, and we reserve the right to track you, number one, and number two, you're not going to get to these sites. I know that Pune, ISKCON Pune blocks such things as YouTube and all of these places. You just can't go there because it is problematic and it is addictive, and it is calculated also. You have people who are making good money by grabbing your mind and involving it in these things. I remember going to an early conference on the use of the internet back in the days when it had just emerged from being a military and academic network, and now it was just on the verge of public use. This is before there were image-based browsers even. There were, what was it, links, where you browsed with only text. But the publishers, this was a meeting of magazine publishers, they knew that the internet was coming, and their question was, well, we know we have to be there, we know that it's important, how do we monetize it? That was like a serious question for all these big publishers in New York City. But meanwhile, the pornographers knew how to monetize it. They were the first people turning a profit on the internet long before everyone else figured out how to do it. So there's, anyway, I won't go on about that. But the internet is, Maya never just gives. She gives with one hand and takes with eight. So you get all the benefits of an internet, but then you get these nasty things happening. And you get, for children, on up, you get this toxic environment, and in which toxicity is profitable. So, and of course, apart from parental controls, there's self-control.
Idea.
Sorry?
Self-control is the idea.
That's an idea.
That's an idea, yeah. Yeah, finally, one who's serious is Krishna conscious. He absorbs himself in hearing, chanting, associating with devotees. And when there's, as soon as something nasty is there, and one has to watch out for marginal sites. What is it? Cracked software sites and stuff like that, because they're closely aligned with the porn sites. So you go looking for cracked software, but you get more than you bargained for. So one really has to be careful on the internet. It's a dangerous place.
And for parents not to be naive about what their kids are.
Parents not to be naive about what their kids are doing. Yeah. It's not all homework. No.
Yeah, it's a huge percentage of children who are really young who've already been exposed to all these things
Oh, yeah.
online.
Yeah. It's so unfortunate. So unfortunate. The yeah. And it's highly conducive to pornography because it's private. You don't even have to go to some, as one did in the old days of printed pornography, go to some shop somewhere into the deep in the magazine section and look for the magazines that had brown wrappers on them. Now it's very private. So
That's true.
very dangerous. And I know of people who've approached me, really in distress because they can't. They're slaves to these things. There's a comment here from Tulsi Priya regarding porn addiction. Accountability to a buddy for an authority also helps. Part of the problem is the secrecy involved in the indulgence of porn. Secrecy creates shame, which leads to more indulgence, downward spiral. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. Yes. There are also support groups. There's a Sexaholics Anonymous and so on. I can't say anything about them except that they're there and they may be helpful. All right, these are all just sort of mundane pragmatic fixes. Shall we go forward? Finally, the best thing is just to be genuinely absorbed in Krishna consciousness so that there's no time or interest in these things. That's the best thing. Just no time or interest. We're out distributing books. We're out chanting Hare Krishna. We're busy. Rabindra Sri Prabhu tells the story of how he was in Philadelphia one time driving in the evening, and somehow they drove into perhaps not the best district of Philadelphia, and there was some woman there who, when the car stopped, disclosed her physique and said, "You boys looking for a good time?" And he said, "No, we're Hare Krishnas."
So he said, we're Hare Krishnas. Oh.
Tato Hasansa Bhagavan Asurayar Nirapatrapaihi Anviyamanas Tadasa Krudhopita Parapatat. The worshipful Brahma first laughed at their stupidity, but finding the shameless asuras close upon him, he grew indignant and ran in great haste out of fear. Purport: sexually inclined demons have no respect even for their father, and the best policy for a saintly father like Brahma is to leave such demoniac sons. Nirapatrapai means shameless. Shameless. So first he laughed at them, and then he realized they were dangerous. They're so stupid, we laugh at them. And that's often what happens when some new nonsense is there and we just laugh at it. It's so ridiculous, it's so stupid. And then you find out that it's becoming mainstream and that it's taking over and threatening your life, your sanity, your everything. So Brahma ran. Upabraja Varadam Pranapannarti Haram Prapannarti Haram Harim Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam. He approached the personality of Godhead, who bestows all boons and who dispels the agony of his devotees and of those who take shelter of his lotus feet. He manifests his innumerable transcendental forms for the satisfaction of his devotees. This is the final resort. That someone just took shelter of Krishna, please help me. So those who are pursued by these demons of lust and degradation are advised to take shelter of Krishna. That who else can help me finally but Krishna? And in your 12-step program, that's like step one, to acknowledge that there's a power higher than myself. And we recognize that power ultimately to be the personality of Godhead. And he's anugrahaya bhaktanam. He appears for the sake of showing mercy to his devotees, and prapanna, for those who are surrendered. Arti haram, he takes away their distress. So Lord Brahma approached Upavraja Varadam, the bestower of benedictions, Lord Krishna.
Is there a devotee named Varda? I would think so. It's a great name, you know.
We have Vardraj.
Vardraj, yeah, I guess, yeah. He's the king
of the bestowers of benedictions.
Yeah, Varda.
In South India, I forget whether it's Kanchipuram, where someone on Anantashesha would know where the deity of Vardraj is located. But he's Lord Vishnu, Vardraj.
Anyway, I mean, when Brahma's approaching the Lord he is here called Varda.
Yeah,
You
Varda, he just bestows appropriate benedictions.
Bestows all boons.
Yeah. Here the words Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam means that the personality of Godhead manifests his multi-forms according to the desires of the devotees. For example, Hanumanji, Bhadrangaji, wanted to see the form of the Lord as the personality of Godhead, Ramchandra, whereas other Vaishnavas want to see the form of Radha Krishna, and still other devotees want to see the Lord in the form of Lakshmi Narayan. The Mayavadi philosophers think that although all these forms are assumed by the Lord, just as the devotees desire to see him, actually he's impersonal. He has no form, but he assumes this form. Avyakta, vyakta, apannam manyate mam abhutaya. The less intelligent think that he's originally impersonal, but he assumes a personal identity. From Brahma Samhita, however, we can understand that this is not so, for the Lord has multi-forms. It is said in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achutam, Anadim Anantarupam. The Lord does not appear before the devotees because of the devotees' imagination. Brahma Samhita further explains that the Lord has innumerable forms. Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamena Tishtam. He exists in millions and millions of forms. There are 8,400,000 species of living entities, but the incarnations of the Supreme Lord are innumerable. 8,400,000, that's a big number, but once you get to the incarnations of the Lord, there in the Bhagavatam it's stated that as the waves in the sea cannot be counted, but appear and disappear continually, the incarnations and forms of the Lord are innumerable. A devotee is attached to a particular form, and it's that form which he worships. We have just described the first appearance of the boar within this universe. There are innumerable universes, and somewhere or other the boar form is now existing. All the forms of the Lord are eternal. It is the devotee's inclination to worship a particular form, and he engages in devotional service to that form. In a verse in the Ramayana, Hanuman, the great devotee of Ram, said, I know that there's no difference between the Sita Ram and Lakshmi Narayan forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but nevertheless the form of Ram and Sita has absorbed my affection and love. Therefore, I want to see the Lord in the forms of Ram and Sita. Similarly, the Gaudiya Vaishnava loves the form of Radha and Krishna and Rukmini at Dwarka. The words Bhaktanam Anurupatma Darshanam mean that the Lord is always pleased to favor the devotee in the particular form in which the devotee wants to worship and render service unto him. And there's a verse in Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 3rd canto, where it says that the Lord appears on the lotus of the heart of the devotee in the particular form that the devotee desires to see. In this verse, it is stated that Brahma approached Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This form of the Lord is Kshirodakshay Vishnu. Whenever there is some trouble and Brahma has to approach the Supreme Lord, he can approach Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And it's the grace of the Lord that whenever Brahma approaches about disturbances in the universe, the Lord gives him relief in so many ways. So Srila Prabhupada here focuses on this point of the, let's find it, Anurupatma Darshanam, that the Lord appears in various forms to for the sake of his devotees. There's also a note here from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Brahma mentally approached the Lord and then made his request. And he says this is understood but not stated. All right, is there anything else here? We have a few more minutes. Yes, Akendra Prabhu.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. I was just noticing that Brahma's ultimate resort in this instance echoes his initial perplexity when he was born in the lotus, didn't know what was going on, where he was, which end was up. He finally took shelter of the Lord, and we've been hearing all these very distressing manifestations of various parts of Brahma's body doing horrible, frightening things. And here he does again. He takes shelter of the Lord. It's like, this is what you do.
Yeah. And it's just thinking about it, when there's nasty things and so on, the devotee knows better. This is lust, this is Maya, this is or this is anger, this is Maya. He doesn't like it, he doesn't want it. He knows that it's an unwanted thing and an artha. Anichanapi varsneya baladi viniyojita. Arjun, how is it that one is impelled to do things even against one's wishes? Then the Lord said, Kamesha Krotesh. It's lust only. And Tasmat Tam Indriyanyado, after delineating what this lust is like, how it burns like fire, how it's difficult to control. He says, Tasmat Tvam Indriyanyado Niyamya Bharatarshaba. One should control lust, ado, from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Prabhupada said, debt, fire, and disease. If you have a debt and you pay it quickly, all right, now you're free from debt. If you have a disease and you treat it early, you can get free from the disease. If there's fire and you catch it quickly, you can put out the fire. But once it grows and grows and grows, whether it's debt or fire,
compound interest on the debt.
compound interest on the debt, shifting your debt around to different credit cards and running up debts in 7 different directions at once. Then it goes, your debt it becomes unmanageable. Your disease becomes untreatable. And the fire rages out of control. And all those fires, and recently, if they'd somehow been caught early, you could have put them out, but you can't catch them early. You don't know where they're going to be, and so on. So Indriyanyado, and it begins with contemplation. Jayadvaita Swami. One thinks about these things, and then that leads to association, and that leads to greater lust, and that leads to destruction finally. Buddhinashat pranashati. So therefore brahmachari life is so important to get that training, even if one is going to enter household life. That brahmachari life in which one is controlled, learns how to control the mind, the senses. So important, so valuable. So so the quality of a godly person is, at least he knows this is not for me, this is nasty. And the quality of a demon is he welcomes it. This is wonderful. He can't wait. He's deep. He's committed to. He's decided that this is the highest thing there is. What could be more? What could be better than this? That's he may be president of the United States, and still his goal in life is to bed down this one or that one. Notoriously, we have, I won't name the esteemed president of the United States who basically used the White House as a brothel. But as a hint, the press corps, while portraying him as an ideal family man, used to call him Mattress Jack. So, Mattress Jack.
It's news to me, okay.
Learn something every day. Anyway, these things are there. Doesn't matter from the bottom of the heap to the top of the heap. These two natures are there, godly and demonic. So you may have godly people in high positions, and you may have demons in high positions, and you may have poor, struggling, godly people, and then poor, miserable demons. So one should be on the godly side, or let's say civilization should favor the godly side. But when the heads of government lose their discrimination, then they promote the demonic side. So you get a president who's running casinos. One president's one president's a cattle rancher, another person's a casino tycoon, and other persons specializing in prostitutes and movie actresses. What kind of people are these that are that we're electing, that we're choosing to be our leaders? What is that? Svavid Varahostrikarai Samstuta Purushatashu. One animal adores a bigger animal. And we call this democracy. The best form of, the worst form of government, except for all other forms of government. Yeah. We're not persuaded. It's good rhetoric, but we don't have to buy it. Actually, Prabhupada says the best form of government is enlightened autocracy, where you have a powerful but godly and properly trained
I asked
administrator.
once, is Krishna made the perfect form of government? And he said, yes, Kshatriyas.
Kshatriyas, as
It
Krishna
was like
made
not this or that, but these people, Kshatriyas. I
Kshatriya.
realized, wow, when have we seen a real Kshatriya?
Yeah. Okay, we're just at the end of our hour. Let's not lose the opportunity for kirtan. And Antashesh says there's a reason why Chanakya Pandit put fire and debt on the same level. Yeah. And disease. And who's leading kirtan tonight, I wonder? Want to lead kirtan? Go Sure. Okay, you're on.
Go straight to Mahamantra.
Yes, a few minutes of Mahamantra, 3 minutes, 5 minutes.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajaka Stotra Satri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai, Navadip Tham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Gaur.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu. Thank you, Gopal Champu Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jayadvaita Maharaj ki jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hare